Hey everybody, today we're going to take a look at OpenCore Legacy Patcher, and I'm going to walk you through the process of how to download it, how to build it, how to apply it, and how to use it. I will basically be following the OpenCore Legacy Patcher website almost down to the letter, but some people prefer a video instead of reading text, so here it is. Let me log in real quick and introduce you to the Mac that I will be using to show you how this all works. So here it is. This is a 2011 Mac Mini with a Core i5, 8 gigs of RAM, and a solid state drive. Now you may notice that the picture quality is, it's not very good. Unfortunately, this is the best I can get out of my scaler while capturing in QuickTime, so it'll have to do. You are likely already familiar with OpenCore Legacy Patcher, but for those that have clicked on this video out of sheer curiosity, OpenCore Legacy Patcher allows your Mac to run a version of macOS that is newer than what is natively supported by your Mac. And we'll get into which model supports which operating system later on, but that's about the gist of it. Your old Mac that might top out at El Capitan or High Sierra might actually run a system that is much newer than that. So if that intrigues you, stay tuned and watch the video and see if it might be something you want to get into. One might ask, why would someone want to run an operating system newer than what their Mac can officially support? Well, it might be just to see what the Mac is capable of and to experiment. It might be for compatibility reasons. A newer operating system might support the version of the software you need. It might be for security. Newer operating systems are typically a little bit more secure than the older ones that no longer receive security updates. And some people might update just for the features that a new operating system offers. Or it could be all of the above. Whatever the reason, OpenCore Legacy Patcher can help you do that. Before we get into all this, there are a few things that we need to go over. First, you need to have a good, verified, functional backup of all your data. First and foremost, you will be messing with your hard drive. You will be messing with the EFI partition on that drive. Better safe than sorry. Make sure you have a backup of all your data and make sure that backup is functional. Alright. You also need a 16 gigabyte or bigger flash drive. And that flash drive will have to be erased during this process. So also make sure that whatever data is on there is backed up. And lastly, you will need the OpenCore Legacy Patcher website. You can find it really easily by typing it into your search engine. And the first link you get is to the GitHub page. And if you scroll down on that page, you will see a link here for the guide. Click on that and then click Getting Started. This video will be following pretty much everything on this page. So make sure you have this page ready and you want to read it before you actually continue with applying the OpenCore patch. Read what it is. Read the warnings, read about the supported models, read about the troubleshooting in case you run into any issues so you know what to expect. So read all of this because it's good information to have. And by the time you watch this video, there may be additional information on this website that I'm not covering here. So always refer to the website first. And lastly, if you have a Mac available that is not your primary machine, test the whole process on there first. just to make sure that you fully understand the process and know how to troubleshoot in case something goes wrong. Now, before you dive in, it is important to know if your Mac can actually run OpenCore, run the operating system you want, and if it can even benefit from it. So on the website, go to Supported Models, and it'll tell you exactly what is and is not supported. It is also important to note that the host operating system, which means the operating system you're running right now, has to be 10.9, Mavericks, or later. Else you will not be able to run the OpenCore Patcher app, which you need to build OpenCore, install it, etc. Now, it might support Lion and up if you have Python 3.9 or higher installed, but it's probably best to just stick with 10.9 or later. The target operating system, so the operating system that you can install with the help of OpenCore Legacy Patcher, is macOS 11, Big Sur, or macOS 12 Monterey. Those are the only two that are supported right now. If you want to install Catalina or Mojave on an unsupported system, it is better to check out the DOSDude1 patchers, and I will pull those up for you. Go to DOSDude1.com, My Software, and here you will have patchers for Sierra, High Sierra, Mojave, and Catalina. OpenCore does not support these operating systems. So if you want any of these, let's say you want Mojave, these are the Macs this patcher can be used on. It's all very well documented, very well laid out. Hundreds, probably thousands of people have been using these patches over the years, and they are very well made. So if you want to run any of these operating systems, go to DOSDude1.com and use one of his patchers. If you want to run Big Sur or Monterey, OpenCore Legacy Patcher is the place to be. So on this page, it'll tell you if your Mac is supported and if there are any comments that you need to pay attention to. For example, a late 2008 MacBook will need a patch for GPU acceleration. A late 2006 MacBook is not supported. So read this carefully. Look up your Mac on this table, and it has them all. MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, Mac Mini, all the way down to Xserve. Look up your Mac in this table and make sure it is supported. And if there are any special notes you need to pay attention to, for example on the Mac Pro 3.1, that's an early 08 model, there are potential boot issues with built-in USB ports. So this kind of stuff you want to know about before you get started. So don't be like this guy.
Jay, why can't I get OpenCore working on this thing?
And don't be like this guy.
Why is OpenCore not working?
Make sure that your hardware is supported and that you know of any potential issues or additional patching that need to be done. On a side note, if you are using a Mac Pro 4.1 or 5.1, so that's 2009 up to 2012, I recommend skipping ahead to the chapter specifically about these models. OpenCore Legacy Patcher will work as long as you have a metal capable graphics card, but there's a much easier way to get OpenCore running on your 2009 to 2012 Mac Pro. So skip all of this and move forward to the chapter about these Macs specifically. So you know your Mac can do it, you've read the website, you know what to expect. Let's dive in. We're going to go to download and build our macOS installer. Now if you already have a Big Sur or Monterey installer on your system, then skip the download section and go straight to building. But for those that still need the latest installer, this page will tell us how to do it. Now this is all done through Terminal, which you can find in your Applications folder, under Utilities. So open that up. And we'll be needing it a few times, so I'm gonna add it to the dock here. There we go. Now, if you are on El Capitan or an older version of macOS currently, you need to copy this command here and paste that into terminal. This is High Sierra, so I will be copying this command instead and putting that in the terminal. Hit enter, enter your administrator password, and let it do its thing for a second. Here's what you end up with. It reached out to Apple servers and got a list of all the installers that you can grab from their server. Now, like I said, Catalina, High Sierra, those are not an option. You want Monterey or Big Sur. In this case, we're going to go with Monterey, and we want the latest version. So let's see, Monterey here, version 12.1, correct? So we want option 9. So enter option 9, or whatever corresponds with the operating system you want to grab, and hit return. And it'll start the download. In the case of Monterey, that's a 12 plus gigabyte download, so it might take a while. In my case, I've already downloaded the installer to save some time, so I'm going to cancel out of this. And as the website says, when your download is done, you will find a directory on your hard drive called macOS installer. In there will be a DMG file. Open that up and take the installer, put it in your applications folder. So I have the installer on a flash drive. I'm going to drop that in my applications folder real quick. Although I am prepared, I wasn't that prepared because I forgot to do that part. So there we have it. Install macOS Monterey. And putting it in your applications folder is really all about convenience, because the other commands that they will cover on this website all assume that the installer is in your applications folder. If you keep the installer somewhere else, you will have to modify the commands to reflect the location of where the installer is on your system. So I recommend just putting it in the applications folder. Makes your life a lot easier. And with the installer now in place, let me take this off the flash drive. There it is in applications. Now we can continue with the rest of the guide. Building. What we need to do now is open up Disk Utility, and you can find that in your applications folder under utilities. And what we're going to do is take our flash drive, which is 16 gigabytes or larger, and we're going to reformat it. We'll want to use macOS Extended with a GUI departition map. Alright, let's do that. Make sure that you show all devices in Disk Utility, because you don't want to grab the partition for this. You want to grab the main drive. So select your flash drive, hit erase, and they use the volume name my volume. I'm going to stick to that because, again, the commands that are further down on the page use that name. So if you want to just copy and paste from the website as much as possible, stick to what they recommend. macOS Extended, GUID, erase. Alright, that takes care of that. Now we're going to run the create install media command, and that is built in to the installer we just downloaded. You can get rid of Disk Utility. In applications, go back to your installer right here. Right click on your installer and say show package contents. And go into contents And I believe is resources. Yes, resources. So this is where we're at. Applications, our installer. We right clicked on that to show the package contents, resources, and here is create install media. That's what we will need. So in this case, you cannot copy and paste the command from the website here because it hasn't been updated in a few months and they're still using the Big Sur installer. So what we're going to do is pull up terminal and type sudo space. We're going back to the Finder. Going to drag the create install media onto the terminal window. So it just typed out the whole path for you to create install media. Now we just have to end the last part to it, which is space -- volume and all that rest. And I have to make sure there's no, yep, one space too many. Once that's in, hit return, enter your password, say yes, and let the terminal do its thing. What it's going to do now is erase the flash drive one more time, making it bootable, putting a bootable installer on there, and then we carry on with the guide. Now that that is done, what you've basically done is create an installer, a typical traditional installer that is not going to work on your unsupported Mac. This was just the first step. So put the terminal off to the side. Let's go back to the website. We're moving to building and installing OpenCore. Now what we need is the OpenCore Legacy Patcher application. So click on this link and grab the latest release. At the time of recording this video, 0.3.3. Scroll down and you have a bunch of options. What you want to grab is the OpenCore Patcher TUI. So grab that, open it up, and dump it in your applications folder. There it is. Close this tab out and go back to the instructions. So we're going to open this app and it will open in a terminal window. It's a TUI, Terminal User Interface. So this is what we got. So what we want to do is build OpenCore. Easy enough. Type 1. And that's it. It's built. And it has built it for your specific machine, Mac Mini 5.1 in this case, and put it on a temporary place on your hard drive. So what we want to do now is put that OpenCore build on the flash drive with the installer. So we're going to select option number 2. It's going to scan all the disks that are connected to your computer, and you're going to go for the flash drive. In this case, option 2. That flash drive has an EFI partition, and that's where OpenCore is going to install to. So select option number 1, or whatever corresponds with your EFI partition on the flash drive. Put in your password, and let it do its thing. There we go. That's it. We'll go back to the website, make sure we haven't missed anything. Install OpenCore to USB. Alright, once finished, head to booting OpenCore and macOS. So we can close out the terminal, press Q, hit return, terminate. And one more thing that I would advise you to do, that's not on the website, is take that terminal OpenCore Patcher application and add it to your flash drive, because it will come in handy later. And close all this. Alright, we are ready to start up from the flash drive and install, in this case, macOS Monterey. So before you restart your computer to install the operating system of choice, make sure you have a phone, an iPad or a laptop nearby where you can pull up the OpenCore website and continue reading the instructions. So we're going to restart this Mac, and you're going to see some weird stuff on the screen because I'm using a scaler, but never mind that. And hold down the Alt or Option key. Alright, we are now in the Mac boot picker. So you have the Mac SSD, in my case that's what's holding High Sierra. I have a few recovery partitions, and this is what we're after. Ignore all these netboot images, you likely won't have those on your screen. So EFI boot is what we're after. That's the OpenCore installer we just created. Now hold down Control and you will see that this arrow turns into a round arrow. And now click on that. And now we've ended up in the OpenCore boot picker. So you want to make a selection quick because you only have a few seconds here. So select Install macOS Monterey and hit enter. And it's going to start up from the flash drive you just created. And here we are. Now you can proceed installing macOS Monterey in this case, or Big Sur, and you can upgrade your existing operating system. But what we're doing in this video is starting from scratch. So I'm going to open Disk Utility, select my Mac SSD that currently has High Sierra on it, and I'm just going to wipe it. Quit out of Disk Utility, and now I'm going to install Monterey. Select the drive you want to install it on, click continue, and now you just wait. Now you will find that with an OpenCore system install like this, the Mac will reboot a few more times than it usually would. It is important that at the time the installer is done and it restarts, you are at your keyboard to make sure that you make the right selection in the boot picker, else it's going to get stuck. Now, because we held down the Control key earlier when we selected the EFI boot partition, that has become the default. But in the second boot picker, you still want to make sure that you select the installer and not the hard drive itself. But we'll cover that when we get to it. Alright, so this is the first restart. I'm currently holding down the Option key, but if you earlier held down Control and selected the EFI boot partition, you shouldn't have to. So if you held down the Control key, as I'm doing now to show you again, and you click this circle, it will skip the Mac boot picker and you will end up here. Now you have two options. You want the one that says macOS Installer, not Install macOS Monterey, but this one with the drive images. Hit return, and it's going to keep going. Alright, so this is the second reboot of the install process. I'm not holding down Option this time, and it should go straight to the OpenCore boot picker. There we go. Now, as long as this window shows an option for the macOS installer, select it and hit enter. The third, and what should be the final reboot of the install process. Again, I'm not holding down Option. There we go. The install option is gone that we've seen before. We have the flash drive installer, but now we have Mac SSD. With the 2 drive images, select that. Now I have had installs on other machines where it rebooted up to 5 times. And we are in, but we're not done yet. Now if you did an upgrade, your setup is going to look different. For me this was a clean install, and you might notice that setup, the initial setup, clicking the buttons and stuff is going to be very, very slow. And on some of the hardware there's a good reason for that, which I will touch on when the setup is done. You can see it's really laggy for me as well. That doesn't mean your install failed or that your hardware cannot handle the operating system. Just power through and we'll fix it shortly. And there we go, macOS Monterey on a 2011 Mac Mini. There it is. Now in my case the graphics are very, very slow. They don't look good. I don't know if this is showing up in the final recording, but you see all that tearing around the edges. That's because I do not currently have graphics acceleration. But don't worry. There's a patch for that. Your system might not need the patch. In my case, I do need the patch, and I will show you why. Go to supported models, and I'm going to find my Mac Mini. And it says it right here in the comments. GPU acceleration is in public beta. See current issues, and you can click a link here to read more about it. But basically what we need to do is we need to run the patcher again, and this time install a patch on the system that enables GPU acceleration, and that'll fix all the graphics issues we're having. You will likely also notice that the system is running very, very slow in general. Now if you go to Applications, Utilities, Activity Monitor, go to the View menu, set the update frequency to very often, and show all processes. You are going to have MDS stores running in the background, and if you set up your iCloud details in the setup, iCloud will be doing a lot of stuff in the background as well, synchronizing your photos, your notes, all that stuff. And that's likely going to take up all of your available processing horsepower. So before we do anything else, I suggest just leave Activity Monitor running, and when all these processes are done, Spotlight is done indexing, all that stuff, when the CPU load calms down, then continue. Alright, now that that is all done, indexing the hard drive and doing all its other stuff, this machine will be a lot more pleasant to work with. So we can quit Activity Monitor and go back to the Applications folder. And what I'm going to do is open up the flash drive, take the OpenCore Patcher app that we stored there and put it on the system. And let's open it up. What we want to do is apply the post-install patch. So in this case, that is number 3. And what that's going to do is scan your system and see if your graphics card is not supported, and that needs a patch. If your Wi-Fi card needs a patch to work, and all that stuff it's going to figure out. If it turns out your system doesn't need any patches, it won't install them. So it's a good idea for everybody that runs OpenCore Legacy Patcher, after the install is done, to run this post-install patch. So we want to patch the system volume, option 1. Are you sure you want to continue? Yep, I am. It's going to download any components that are needed to do the patches, and then it'll do its thing. Enter your password if it asks for it. And that's it. The patch is done. Now before I close this, I'm going to take a quick look at what it did. I'm sure I'm not going to understand all of it, but it identified the Mac Mini that we're using, and it's installing Sandy Bridge patches, detected a supported OS. We need the acceleration patches, so it knows. Monterey deleted a bunch of stuff we didn't need, and it added the Apple Intel HD 3000 graphics patch, which we definitely do need. So it did everything it had to do. Hit enter. That's it, the patch is installed. Now you can restart and it should run a lot smoother. But we want to get rid of the flash drive because we don't want to leave that in permanently and need it to boot up this Mac. So we're going to build OpenCore one more time. That's done. And then we're going to install OpenCore, option 2, on the internal drive. So this time we want the internal drive instead of the flash drive. For me, that's option 0. And we want to install this on the EFI partition, option 1. Enter your password. And it's done. Q to quit. Terminate. And that's it. So we'll close this. We'll quit out Safari. And we're going to restart. Now this is the first restart where we are not booting from the flash drive, which is currently identified as the primary choice. So we're going to restart and we're going to hold down option once again. We now have 2 EFI boots. One on the flash drive and one on the internal drive, which is depicted by one of these SSD blades that you find in the 2013 Mac Pro. So this is the default, which we want to get rid of. We want the internal drive. So hold down Control, which will change this symbol, and then click on that. Now we're back into the OpenCore boot picker, and we're going to select Mac SSD. Hold down Control again, so that this arrow changes, and then click on that. So what we just did is install OpenCore on the internal drive's EFI partition. We've selected it as the default EFI for this system, and we selected Monterey as the default operating system to boot up from. So from now on, you can just restart your Mac, shut it down, power it up again, and it should have all those choices as defaults, so you don't have to hold down option anymore, unless you want to change it and boot up from a different hard drive or an external drive. And that's it. Now I am limited when it comes to colors that I can display because of my scaler. When I hook this up to an actual monitor, it looks a lot better. Like these buttons missing down here. That's all because of my scaler. But see, the window tearing is gone. It even pops up a software update. Alright, just to verify that this whole process worked, we're going to eject the flash drive. And take that out of the machine. And we're going to restart and just sit back and see what happens. There we go, full autopilot. By default, it will show the OpenCore boot picker. If you don't make a selection, after a few seconds, it'll just pick the right one and keep going. You can go back into the OpenCore Patcher application, tweak the settings, reinstall OpenCore on your EFI partition to make that window disappear. So it'll just know which drive to pick and it'll boot up from that. I prefer to keep it in place because I mess around a lot with different hard drives, external installers and all that. macOS Monterey, currently the latest version on a Mac Mini that does not natively support it. Now I mentioned something about these graphics glitches over here. That is my scaler in this case, but you might notice, and I don't know if it's showing up in the recording, but see the weird dark gray squares back there? That is actually there, even if I hook this up to a monitor. Now, as the website says, the graphics acceleration patches for these unsupported systems are still in beta, so they're still working on this. But you can update OpenCore down the road really easily. You download the latest version from their website, as we did before. You open the app, build a fresh version of OpenCore, which takes about 5 seconds, and then install that back to the internal hard drive's EFI partition. And that's it, you've updated OpenCore. So really easy. In this case, we're going to quit. That's it, you're done, you did it. There are a few more things I want to touch on though, before you go, in no particular order. If you are using a 2009 to 2012 Mac Pro, also known as the Mac Pro 4,1 and the Mac Pro 5,1, you can use OpenCore Legacy Patcher. It's fully supported, it'll do everything you want it to do. But there is a much easier way, and I will pull that up real quick for you. On Mac Rumors, there is a thread called OpenCore on the Mac Pro, which is specifically for the classic Mac Pro. Not the trash can, not the latest one, but the older models. There is a pre-built package that does everything for you. You don't have to mess around with OpenCore Legacy Patcher at all. Now I will link to this thread in the description below, where you can just download a package, open it up, put the relevant files on your EFI partition, reboot and be done with it. It's really quite fantastic. So I will link to that in the description below. Again, you can use OpenCore Legacy Patcher if you want to do all the work yourself, but using this pre-built package is so much easier and faster. You can literally be done in about a minute and be on your way. Update to the latest operating system and do your thing. So if you have a Mac Pro, check this out first before taking the OpenCore Legacy Patcher route. You are now running a version of macOS that was not made to run on your particular system. Now with the help of this patcher, it can run beautifully and it'll work really well. But there will come a time where a software update comes out. Now if, in my case, macOS Monterey 12.2 releases tomorrow, it is in my best interest not to install it right away. What you want to do is check some of the resources to make sure that it's safe. There are a few options, and I will go back to the OpenCore website, which I should have bookmarked, but I didn't. there is a Discord server, the OpenCore Patcher Paradise Discord server, full of great people, some people that are doing this for the first time that go there for help, a lot of people that have done this a tons of time before and that can offer the help that you need. So it's a good idea to join this server, and if a new version of macOS comes out or a whole new release, whatever comes after Monterey, to go there and say, hey, this is the Mac I'm running, this is the version of OpenCore I have, can I install this update or this new release? Another option is Facebook, and I will have to look that up real quick. There's a group on Facebook called OpenCore Project Legacy. Now I probably won't be able to see much since I'm not logged in, but you might want to consider joining this group as well and ask the same questions there. If you don't get a fast answer on the Discord server, or you don't have access to Discord and you have Facebook instead, use that group as a resource as well. And of course, the website itself. Let's see. The OpenCore Legacy Patcher website, although they are a little slow in updating it. This was, at the time of recording, last updated in May of last year. That's why it's still referencing Big Sur for the most part and saying that Monterey is in beta. Hopefully they will update this in the future to reflect whatever's going on with new updates and new OS releases. So that's one. When it comes to updates, don't install them right away. Do some research first. And always make sure you back up your data prior to installing any updates. Now, one more thing I want to touch on is, what if the Mac that you want to install OpenCore on is currently not up and running? So you want to build OpenCore, set up the installer, get it all done, but you want to do that on another Mac. And that is possible. So we are going to fire up the OpenCore Patcher app. And now, this time before you build it, we are building this on a Mac Mini 5.1. But I want to install this for, let's say, a 2012 MacBook Pro. So we have to change the model, which in this case is number 4. And it's asking, please enter the model identifier of the target machine. Now what you can do is get an app such as Mac Tracker and look up what that identifier is. So in this case, MacBook Pro. (13-inch mid-2012). The model identifier is MacBook Pro 9,2. So you can copy that, paste it here in the terminal, and now it will build the patch for that model. So you can build OpenCore, install it on the flash drive that you already have your installer on, as shown before, stick that into the 2012 MacBook Pro, and do the whole process. Only this time, it will patch specifically for that machine. So you can use any Mac as long as it's running 10.9 Mavericks or newer. You can use any Mac to build OpenCore for any other system. So that's very useful. In this case, we're not going to do that. So Q to quit. And we can quit this as well. And that's it. The latest macOS operating system on your, according to Apple, unsupported hardware. I hope you enjoyed this video. If there are any critical updates or stuff that I forgot to mention, I will mention those in the description. And enjoy giving your old Mac a new lease on life. That's all from me today. Take care. See you next time.